Good morning, Morai Barabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We are continuing on Masechet Succah, and we are on Daf Chaf Hey Amud Bet, 14 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Today's Amud is being learned as a Zchut, Refuah Shelema, for Esther Bracha Bat Simcha, should have Bat Chaya. Thank you, that should have Refuah Shelema, and for Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, should have Refuah Shelema. Nisim ben Miriam should have Refuah Shelema, and Joanna bat Rebecca, they should have Refuah Shelema. Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. This month's learning of the community has been also graciously dedicated by the Shea family, Dayan family, and Kohen families. Should be an ultimate zchut for all their mishpachot. Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. So we are in the middle of the discussion that we started about people who are patur from the sukkah, and the general theme was osek b'mitzvah patur mina mitzvah. If you are busy with doing a mitzvah, that by itself absolves you from doing another mitzvah, from being obligated to do a different mitzvah. We saw the examples that the person that's going on the way to do a mitzvah is patur from sukkah. Regarding our topic of Masechet Succah, that was the prime example that the Mishnah gave, that a person that's going to do a mitzvah is patur from doing sukkah and sleeping, sitting, dwelling in the sukkah. Shluchei mitzvah peturin mina sukkah. Rashi gave the example that shluchei mitzvah, it could be easily somebody that's going to see his Rebbe. We'll see an example of that in the Gemara. Someone the Chol HaMoed, mitzvah la'akpil penei rabo baregel, will be a mitzvah to go see your Rebbe on Chol HaMoed, and the period of time, if it's out of town and you're going and it's not comfortable, you don't have an available sukkah, you will be patur from sitting in the sukkah. And Rashi said it could be simply someone that's going to learn Torah. You're on the way to yeshiva, and that would be also holchei la'asot mitzvah, shluchei mitzvah, pturin mina sukkah. Now, the Gemara is going to discuss a chatan. Now, we spoke about the fact that chatan perhaps is patur from Kriyat Shema. We spoke about why chatan would be patur from tefillah, from Kriyat Shema, because he's tarud tirdav the mitzvah. Right, because his mind is busy, at least by Noseh Betula, and it's different than an Avel or someone that lost their money, because they are preoccupied with Dvar Reshut, and Chatan is preoccupied with Dvar Mitzvah, and that's how we ended off. Now, the Gemara is going to discuss, Ve'amar Rav Abba bar Zavda amar Rav. Rav Abba bar Zavda said, in the name of Rav, the Chatan ve'ashushabinin, V'kol b'nei achupa, not just chatan, but the chatan, and the shushabinin, who were basically the equivalent of the best men on a steroid, the people who stayed with the chatan for the entire 7 days of the chuppah. In other words, you have to understand the way it worked back in the day, and the Tosafot actually right over here mentions this, the one to last Tosafot and Simcha ela bechuppah, which the Gemara is going to discuss now, that the way it worked back in the day was there was a place of chuppah, not the place of the canopy that they said the brachot necessarily. Sometimes that was out in the open, depending on the crowd that had to attend the wedding. But for the 7 days, duration of 7 days, there was a specific, nice, beautiful canopy place that they had set up for the chatan and kala to sit there and spend time. People would come there, people would be playing music, sing with them, dance with them, and spend time. That was the Simchat Chatan V'Kala. It was a set place, and the Shushabinin, the best friends of the Chatan, were there the entire 7 days with him, spending time. So says the Gemara, not just Chatan is patur, but the Shushabinin and Kol B'nei Chuppah, they are all patur min ha-sukkah, from sitting in the sukkah. That's a massive chiddush, right? Anyone that's needed for the chatan to have his experience of simcha will be patur from Sukkah. Now, the Gemara says, that's not just for the day, night of the wedding. Kol Shiva, all 7 days of Sheva Brachot, everybody is patur from Sukkah. So it says in Gemara, wait a second, my Tama. What's the reason? Why can't they just sit in the Sukkah? Mishum de Baule Mechte. Because they have to be happy. Look, this is the 7 days of Simcha, of the Chatan. Again, the Gemara in Masechet Ketuvot of Zayin, the Gemara discusses if a person's first marriage is how many days, second marriage, if it's his first time, her second time, his second time, her first time, is it 7, is it 3, is it 1? But a regular wedding of a Chatan and Kala first time, it's 7 days of Shivat Yimei Simcha. They have 7 days to be happy. So you have to be happy, can't be in the Sukkah. Well, says, wait a second.
So this wedding obviously took place after Yom Kippur.
This wedding obviously took place after Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
That's good. What's the question? Of course.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So says the Gemara, Velichlu besukkah, velichtu besukkah. What's the problem? Eat the Suda in the Sukkah and be happy in the Sukkah. Who says you can't be happy in the Sukkah? Right? Zman Simchatenu, after all. Right? You have to be happy. And if Zman Simchatenu must be in the Sukkah, so you could be happy in the Sukkah. What's the problem? Mara says, no. En Simcha ela bechuppah. You can't be happy unless you are in the chuppah. It's your place of Simcha. Now, the different Rishonim have different understandings of why the Chatan can't be happy in any place outside Sukkah, because maybe it's not enough place. Sukkah was a temporary structure. His friends can't all be there. It's not, usually it's on the rooftop. It's very difficult for him to go up and come down all the time, right? That's how they had it. The Sukkah was on the rooftop, which we had, you had to go 2 stories up, and then there's no plumbing and bathroom and so on and so on. So every time you have to come down and up. That's not Simcha. It's like it's tircha for the Chatan that needs to be set in his place, and so on. Those are different Rishonim. Rashi over here says the reason that there's no Simcha for the Chatan outside of his chuppah, outside of his place, is because it's not private. Chatan and Kala need a certain level of privacy to be happy, and Sukkah is not necessarily private, right? Every moment someone comes in, someone goes out, it's not a private place. It says the Gemara, En simcha la b'makom seuda, so you should eat in the Sukkah, and go back to the chuppah to be happy. Just eat, at least eat your Suda in the Sukkah. Says no, en simcha ela b'makom Suda. Simcha together is with the Suda together. When you want to be happy, en simcha ela b'basar v'yayin, you're sitting, you're eating little by little, drinking, people are there, they're singing. It's a whole experience. It's not that you check boxes. Okay, so I ate in Sukkah, check the box, now we're going to go to chuppah to be happy. It has to be all as one experience. It says the Gemara, v'libadu chuppah b'sukkah. So why don't you just make a chuppah in the Sukkah? So Abaya amar mishum yichud. Abaya says it's because of yichud. Why? What does it mean because of yichud? Because, again, Sukkah was up on rooftop, and if the Chatan moment needs to leave and go out, it turns out that the Kala is now with yichud with Shushabinin, with someone up there, and it's going to be a problem of yichud. Now this very much needs the Gemara at the end of Masechet Kiddushin, Daf Pei Amud Bet and on. The Gemara there actually has a question about Rav Yosef and Rabbi that even though that Rav Yosef was in town, still would be a problem of yichud with his wife and Rabbi. And the Gemara asks this question. Gemara says, well, it's Bala Ba'ir, because the Gemara there says one of the best leniencies that you have in the entire yichud is Ba'alah Ba'ir. If you have a woman whose husband is around, is in town, then it will be mutar for the wife to be in seclusion, because any moment the wife has this built-in feeling, hashta'ati, says Rashi over there, that my husband could any moment could come. So that's a built-in guard. So says the Gemara over there. So what's the problem with Rabbi Bibi and the wife of Rabbi Yosef being in the same house when Rabbi Yosef is there? And the Gemara answers because Rabbi Yosef was Shushabine. Rabbi Bibi was Shushabine. He was one of the Shushabine, one of the best men, one of the close friends of Rabbi Yosef. They were very close. So in that case, the heter of Ba'ala Ba'ir doesn't even work. You don't have a heter of Ba'ala Ba'ir with someone that you're so intimately close with, you grew up together, cousins or best men. That type of setting, when the relationships are very close, even the Ba'ala Ba'ir doesn't allow the scenario of being secluded, being in Yichud. So hence, with that background in mind, Amar Abaye says it's because of Yichud. Because the Chatan could be stepping out of Sukkah any moment, and that will become a problem. Rashi says the Stam Sukkah Hayosin Begagotin. The regular Sukkah was built on the rooftop. It's not common for people necessarily to come and go for regular people, the Rabbim, because of the difficulty, and hence, maybe the Chatan is going to need to step out, and another person would be mityached with the kala, someone that's up there. Now, another anecdote parenthetically is that there is machloket Rambam and some other Rishonim when it comes to the halachot of Yichud, whether two frum men could be mityached with one woman. In other words, the Mishnah tells us in Masechet Kiddushin Daf Pei Amud Bet that shnei anashim with isha achad mityachedim. There the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, that's by anashim kesherim. We're talking only about kosher individuals, right? Good people. So then the Gemara, in the next Amud, says a story, says the person who said this memra himself, Rav Yehuda, the legendary student of Rav, together with his Rebbe, Rav himself, bichvodo ba'atzmo, they are going on a path and they see a woman in front of them. This was an empty path. So it's a scenario that they are kind of secluded in this path. And Rav tells him, he says, Dal karech mikame geinam. He says, let's quickly pass her by because this is a scenario of Yichud, Gehenna, right? So Rav Yehuda says, wait a second. Aren't you the one that said two anashim kesherim, two from people, two kosher people could be mityached with one woman? Rav looks at him and says, it's not talking about me and you. Not regular from people. We're not kasher when it comes to halachot of yichud. We don't make the cutoff line. We're talking about someone like Rab Chanina and Chaverav. The reference to Gemara earlier on, I think in Daf Lamed Tet in Masechet Kiddushin, people who were tested in issues of morality and promiscuity in a major way, and they came out successful. Rav says, even though that Rav in the entire Gemara is known as Asara, the Mili, the Chassidut, the Rav, he was a Chassid Rav, never in his adult life, never looked over his four amot, never spoke a word that was not necessary. You're talking about the greatest, pious individual of all time almost. And Rav says, not talking about me and you. When it comes to the issues of promiscuity, no one could really trust themselves unless you have been tested and succeeded like Rab Chanina beChaverav. Now, this Gemara is understood two different ways by the leading Rishonim. Rambam takes the Gemara on his face value, says, Rav meant exactly what he said. He really meant that this is a scenario of Yichud. He was not just merely being pious and machmir on himself. He said what he felt would be the halacha, and hence, says the Rambam, nowadays we don't have anyone that's kasher. Which would lead to the conclusion that two men and one woman in a seclusion would be asur. right? Chacham Obadia and Rabbi Yashiv together would be asur. Doesn't make it, you don't have anybody. If Rambam says you don't have anybody, now you for sure don't have anybody. That's how Rambam paskins, right? Now the majority of the other Rishonim don't understand the Gemara at its as face value, and they say no. When we talk about Rav and Rav Yehuda, he was machmir as a midat chasidut. Regularly speaking, like the Ran writes, a regular frum person, a shomer Torah mitzvot yiras shamayim, a person that is bound to Torah mitzvot is considered kasher. So two of those with one woman are kasher. Now, what does that have to do with our practical life? The practical life becomes machloket Ashkenazim and Sfaradim, because Maran of Shulchan Aruch in Siman Chaf Bet paskins like the Rambam, and the Rama over there paskins like the Ran and other Rishonim. So it becomes a massive technical difference in Chod Yichud between Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. But be that as it may, over a year, now if you have Shushabinin, there's more than one, or one, even if all the Shushabinin are up there, still will become a scenario of Yichud, certainly according to Rambam, but according to the others would be at least when you have scenario of one person with the Kala when the Chatan steps down, hence Amar Abaye Mishum Yichud. Says the Gemara.
Rabbi,
Yes.
I feel like people are coming and going all the time, but doesn't that matter? And the sukkah's like open on one side.
So Rashi, because of that, in the beginning, actually asked and answered your question. In the beginning it says, Stam Sukkah, regular Sukkah would be built on the rooftop, and the traffic is not as much. Now, the traffic not being as much only needs to be feeling safe for the shiur of yichud, which they call a very complicated topic by itself. What is the amount of time that would create a scenario of yichud, right? So you could be driving in the greatest highway in the world, and if it's 3 o'clock a.m. and every 3.5, 4 minutes a car passes, that would be scenario of yichud, because that's the time lapse that you need privacy in order to get into the issue of yichud, and therefore it could be very easily found in this concept of sukkah when it's on rooftop and it's not a regular passway for people if it's a private sukkah, says Rashi. Now says the Gemara, that's Abaye. Abaye says it's because of yichud. Rava Amar Mishum Sar Chatan. Rava says it's because of the Sar of Chatan. Now we explained already the Sar of Chatan, according to Rava, is because Shamakom Sar Upatuach, the place is small, right? Already Tosafot Aberu Perez, others, they say the fact that the place is small and all your friends can't be there, that's one problem of Sar Chatan, because it's not comfortable for all the friends to come in, sit, play music, sing. You need a certain comfort zone. And says Rashi, not only that, but also his patuach is open. The regular sukkah is shenayim kin chatan v'shlishit afilu tefach. It's an open place. And also it's public. It's correct that it will become for issue of yichud, because people don't come so often, but sometimes people come in that don't belong. And says Rashi, ubosh lesachek im kalat. He's embarrassed to have fun with the kalat, to speak, to joke around. It's difficult. It's not private enough, and therefore it will be a problem, says Rava. Now, my benai, what's the difference? What's the nafka mina between Abaye and Rava? The nafka mina would be kabenayu the shechichi in she the nafki v'aili, if it's a sukkah that's not made in a private place. It's downstairs in the courtyard, and the Chatan's father is the Rashka Bahag, is the Rav of the community. So the whole 7 days people are going in and out to Vish Mazal Tov. So it's Mamash Reshut Harabim. So that would give you, that's not Yichud anymore, but certainly is not a private place, and therefore, according to Abaye, it will be fine. According to Rava, it won't be fine. Fine. So that's the Gemara with Machloket Amuraim. Says the Gemara, Rav Zera said Amar Reb Zera, Ana achli besukkah v'chadi bechuppah. I said, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I did this. I ate in the sukkah, and we went with my shushabinin, with my best friends, best men, to the chuppah, and we had fun. And adarabah, I actually felt unbelievably good because I felt like I hit the jackpot. I did the mitzvah of sukkah, and I did mitzvah of chuppah, and it was amazing. The kol sheken dechadi libai, and kol sheken, 100% my heart was rejoicing because I did both. I was happy that I managed to do the mitzvah of sukkah, and of course I managed to have a great chuppah in a private, nice place with my friends. It was awesome. Fine. Now, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned, Chatan ve'ashusha binin ve'kol b'nei chuppah pturin min atfilah. Not only sukkah, this was sukkah, we can understand sukkah, right? Because the best men have to be there with him, and so on. Look, we get it. We understand. They are osek b'mitzvah, being mesameach chatan v'kala. Kol ha-mesameach chatan v'kala, ki'ilu bana achat mechurpot Yerushalayim. The Gemara tells us in Masechet Brachot. We know zocher l'chamisha kolot, right? Kol sason, kol simcha, kol chatan, kol chala, kol misalot chatanim mechupatam, une'arim mishte neginatam. We know all of that. But are they going to be patur from davening also? So this writer says yes. Not only Chatan is patur, but even all of the shushabinim of the Chatan, v'chol b'nei achuppah, pturim min atfilah, they're patur from davening. Umin atfilin, they're patur from putting on tefillin. Why tefillah? Because tefillah needs kavanah. Tefillah below kavanah, ki guf below neshama, everyone says, right? The tefillah has to have a proper mindset. You have to be prepared, right? Chasidim Arishonim, the Gemara in Brachot Daf Lamed Aleph, Hayushoin Sha'achad, they would wait a full hour beforehand to prepare their mind. When you're in the chuppah, everyone is drunk, everyone is drinking, happy. It's not a proper mindset. And that's what it takes to be Mesameach the Chatan sometimes. And therefore, it's not promoting the drunk part. I'm saying it's mishteh. For tefillah, you don't have to be drunk. By the way, it's parenthetically, the Shulchan Aruch in Orach Chaim Siman Tzadi Sif Aleph says, a person that drinks merely just a revi'it of wine, it's not a lot of alcohol, right? The natural wine could be 5% alcohol. Doesn't have to be even 12%, right? And you have a revi'it, you call the shatu, it's asur to daven, right? Really? Hashtag Kiddush clubs, because you have a massive problem. The Chafetz Chaim there writes that equivalent of that amount of alcohol would render you pasur and asur to daven. That would be like a half a shot of alcohol, and it's asur for you to daven. So therefore, you need proper intent, proper kabbalah, and same with tefillin. Tefillin is koved rosh. When you put on tefillin, you have to be in a serious, mindful state. And when it's kalut rosh, when there is drinking, then it's not the proper thing for tefillin. But they have to say Shema. Shema is like what? Takes 10 seconds to say the first two psukim of Shema. It takes 1 minute to say the first pasha. It's not a big deal. You could control yourself for that 1 minute, say the Shema like a mensch, and go back to being Mesameach Chatan v'Kala. Hence, they are chayav b'kriyat Shema. Mishum Rabbi Shila Amru. In the name of Rabbi Shila, they said, Chatan patur v'ashushabinin v'kol b'nei chuppah chayavin. Chatan is patur from even Kriyat Shema. The rest of the Shushabinin and Bnei Chuppah are chayavin to say Shema as well. Now, this is a deeper machloket which gets into the question of whether or not other Tanaim and Amoraim agree with the concept of osek b'mitzvah, patur mina mitzvah, or is it because of just the technicality? We're not going to necessarily get too deep into this, but 2 points that are very important is one, the machloket Rashi and Tosafot in the Tosafot that we mentioned earlier on, one to the last Tosafot in Chafei Amud Bet. Rashi, we all remember, yesterday we learned, Rashi said that when you talk about sheluchei mitzvah pturim min sukkah, is even at night. Right? During the day, they're going to be walking, and this is something we're going to spend some time tomorrow on it, but at night that they're going to sleep, I would say maybe they should be chayav b'mitzvah sukkah. When Rashi over there said that shluchei mitzvah that they are patur from sukkah, even beshat halachatan, even when they are sleeping at night, they're patur from sukkah. If they're on the way and it's not easy to find the sukkah, it will be fine, right? Now, we'll have stories about this in the Gemara and perhaps come back to this machloket Rashi and Tosafot. But Tosafot asked the question, the obvious question. So wait, when you're going to do the mitzvah, I understand that. But when you're not busy with doing the mitzvah, why would you be patur from the mitzvah then? That doesn't make sense. So that's one of the problems that we have between Rashi and Tosafot, trying to understand how it is that you will become patur even b'sha'at hanachatan, even when they're not actually busy with the mitzvah. The Rashi said that they are patur, and Tosafot holds that it will be difficult to maintain that argument, and that's the first point which we're going to come back to. Be'ezrat Hashem. The second point is, when you have the concept, we spend the entire daf talking about osek b'mitzvah, patur mina mitzvah, right? Osek b'mitzvah, patur mina mitzvah. Now, Rambam in Ilchot Talmud Torah paskins that when you are sitting and learning, and an opportunity of mitzvah arises that no one else could be doing at this moment right now, right? It's not efshar lasod al yedei acherim. It's not something that you could ask someone else to do. Then you have to stop your learning. You go do the mitzvah, v'yachzor letalmudo, and you come back and you return right away immediately afterwards to your learning, right? Now that sounds to me like when you're learning Torah, which is the ultimate mitzvah. We say in Mishnah every morning, Talmud Torah, Keneged Kulam. Talmud Torah is the greatest mitzvah. The Ramchal writes in Derech Hashem, Chelik Dalet Perek Bet, says the greatest mitzvah that wields the greatest power, spiritual power, has the shefa of the creation itself. That energy has been tied to the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. When you learn Torah, you are literally holding up the world. It's the greatest of the mitzvah. And yet, you're osek be mitzvah, and seems to be you're not patur mina mitzvah. And to make this much worse, you remember the example Rashi gave for someone that's shiluchei mitzvah? One of the examples Rashi gave is a guy that's going to learn Torah. You remember that? He's going to yeshiva. So it's the most ironic thing. You're going to yeshiva, you're patur from the mitzvah on the way. Because you're osek mitzvah, patur mitzvah. You get to the yeshiva, you open the Gemara, you sit there, and now a mitzvah comes up, you have to do the mitzvah. When you're going on the way to learn, you consider osek b'mitzvah. When you're actually learning, which was the purpose of your trip, then you're not patur mina mitzvah. It's very ironic. It's strange. And that's the question that was asked by Rabbeinu Meir Simcha Mitvinsk, a.k.a. the Or Sameach, asks this question, powerful question. Says, how does that make sense? It seems like with mitzvah Talmud Torah, you don't have this whole concept of osek b'mitzvah, patur mina mitzvah, but you're going to learn, you will have that mitzvah. So how are we to wrap our head around it? Rav Kiva Eger asks this question, and he says, Ayin b'tshua kol ben Levi. He says, go look at what the Sefer Kol ben Levi asks and answers about this. And indeed, if you look inside, he says a fascinating idea. Says the Kol ben Levi, by mitzvah of Talmud Torah, you don't have the concept of osek b'mitzvah patur mina mitzvah. You know why? Because every word of Torah that you learn is a new mitzvah. Every word of Torah is keneged kulam, is equivalent of Taryag mitzvot. Every word, now you did it, now the next word you're saying is a new mitzvah. So therefore, between the two words, you're not osek b'mitzvah. You haven't started the next one yet. Therefore, you have to stop for a mitzvah that comes up. in the middle. But the magnificent insight that is brought also by the Vilna Gaon in his commentary on that Mishnah in Pe'ah, says the Vilna Gaon, when we say Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, we're talking about every word of Torah that you learn. Says the Chafetz Chaim, you could be learning one Blat Gemara, one Amud Yomi Shir, and you have hundreds of mitzvot Talmud Torah multiplied by 613. You can imagine the greatness of the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, what it could yield, what it could be, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. But the side effect of it is that every word is a new mitzvah. So I'm in between two mitzvot when I'm learning next word, and if an opportunity of mitzvah arises, then I don't have the heter of osek b'mitzvah, patur mina mitzvah. Versus when I'm going to the yeshiva, on the way, it's one mitzvah. It's one continuous mitzvah. So I'm in the middle of doing a mitzvah, I'm patur from the other mitzvot. But once I'm learning, every word is a new mitzvah. It's not that I went to yeshiva, learned today, okay, I learned a little bit. Every word that you learned, Chafetz Chaim says every minute a person could be speaking 200 words. Now, to do a basic back of the envelope arithmetic of how many mitzvot a person could accumulate by learning a half hour or hour of Torah, that's a tremendous, tremendous thing that comes out from this, the yesod of the Kol Ben Levi, concluding our sugya of osek b'mitzvah, patur mina mitzvah, which really puts a tremendous, tremendous emphasis on the mitzvah of Talmud Torah and the zchut that we accumulate by coming to learn. Hazaku Baruch.